There are wounds that never bleed. They live in silence, hidden behind smiles, buried under forced laughter, and they burn quietly in the soul. This wound has a name: shame. It creeps into your thoughts when you lie awake at night. It whispers that you are not enough, that you are unworthy, that you are defined by your failures, mistakes, and scars. It tells you that your value is measured by the judgment of others, by the whispers of a cruel world that feasts on weakness, and the tragedy is not that others believe it. It's that you begin to believe it yourself. But listen to me carefully. Shame is a prison built not with steel bars, but with illusions. It is an enemy that only has power when you bow your head and accept its chains. The moment you decide to rise, to look shame directly in the eye, you will realize that it is powerless. You were not born to crawl beneath the weight of regret. You were born to walk with fire in your eyes and steel in your spine. Today, if you choose, shame will never control you again. Shame has always been misunderstood as a sign of weakness, a reminder of failure, a stain that cannot be removed. But in truth, shame is only as powerful as the meaning we attach to it. Every time you feel the burning of shame in your chest, it is a signal that you have touched something deep within yourself, something that matters to you. Instead of running from it or burying it under denial, you can learn to confront it with open eyes. You can strip shame of its poison and use it as a compass, pointing you toward the very areas of your life where growth and transformation wait. The wound that shame creates is not proof of your destruction. It is proof that you are alive, that you have the capacity to care, to desire, and to fight for something greater. Only those who feel nothing are truly broken. When you allow yourself to stand before your shame without trembling, you begin to turn it into a force that no enemy can use against you. Think about it. What gives shame its power? It is not the event itself, not the mistake, not the failure. It is the judgment you attach to it, the narrative you repeat in your mind like a cruel echo. You tell yourself you are less. You tell yourself you are unworthy. And slowly that lie becomes a prison. But the moment you stop repeating the lie, the moment you recognize that shame is nothing but a distorted reflection created by your own mind, you reclaim control. That sting you feel when you remember your worst moments can become fuel if you dare to see it differently. Every scar is a reminder not of how you fell, but of how you survived. Every memory of shame is a chance to say, "This is where I was, but it is not where I remain." The more you accept your scars, the less power they have to chain you, and the more they become weapons in your arsenal of resilience. People often hide their shame, burying it under perfection, pretending to be flawless so the world never sees their cracks. But cracks are where the light enters. The strongest leaders, the most relentless warriors, the most unbreakable souls are not those who never knew shame, but those who faced it and refused to bow. They transformed humiliation into defiance, rejection into power, guilt into clarity. You must ask yourself, will you let shame crush you into silence, or will you use it as the very reason you rise, louder, stronger, untouchable? When you accept the parts of yourself that others try to use against you, you rob the world of its weapon. Imagine the strength of a man who has nothing left to hide. Imagine the fear in the hearts of those who realize he cannot be controlled by ridicule or disgrace. That is the moment you become untouchable, not when shame disappears, but when you bend it into your armor. Turning shame into strength requires brutal honesty. You must be willing to look directly at the moments that haunt you, not with self-pity, but with ruthless clarity. Ask yourself, what did this pain teach me? What fire did it awaken in me? What weakness did it expose, and how can I now forge it into strength? The answers are there, hidden within the very feelings you have been running from. This is not about pretending the pain does not exist. It is about refusing to let it dictate your future. Every insult you endured, every failure that made you bow your head, every mistake that made you burn with regret, all of them are stones. You can carry them as a burden on your back, or you can gather them and build a fortress. The choice is yours. Strength is never given, it is forged. In the moments where shame would have destroyed you, but you turned it into the foundation of your power. And once you learn to use shame as fuel, nothing can stop you. Your enemies will try to remind you of your past, but you will meet them with a smile, because you already turned those wounds into weapons. They will try to mock you, but you will not bow, because you already know their words cannot pierce a heart that has embraced its scars. You will walk into every battle with the calmness of one who has seen his own worst self and survived it. That is real power. The power to never be destroyed by your own reflection. Shame no longer chains you, it drives you. It does not silence you, it sharpens your voice. It does not break you, it makes you unstoppable. Once you have mastered this transformation, shame becomes your servant, never your master, and you rise above the weakness of a world that trembles at its own shadow. Judgment is the most common weapon the world will use against you. It comes from every direction. Family, friends, strangers, enemies. Each voice carrying its opinion about who you are and who you should be. If you listen too closely, you will find yourself shackled, moving not by your own will, but by the invisible strings of their expectations. The truth is, judgment has no real substance. It is wind, passing words, fleeting thoughts of people who will forget you tomorrow. Yet many live their entire lives enslaved to these voices, terrified of ridicule, desperate for approval, and imprisoned by the fear of rejection. To be indifferent to judgment is not to ignore the world, but to see its opinions for what they are, powerless. The day you stop trembling at the thought of being misunderstood, the day you no longer fear being criticized, you step into a freedom that most will never know. That freedom makes you dangerous, because a man who does not bend under judgment cannot be controlled. What makes judgment powerful is not its truth, but your reaction to it. The same insult that breaks one man into silence can make another laugh with defiance. Why? Because it is not the words themselves that hold power, but the meaning you grant them. If you believe the voices that call you unworthy, you hand them the key to your mind. But if you see their words as nothing more than air escaping from the mouths of the weak, they cannot touch you. The world will always have something to say. Today they praise you, tomorrow they condemn you, and the day after they forget you. If your strength depends on their applause, you will collapse the moment it turns into scorn. But when you master indifference, you no longer rise with their approval, nor fall with their insults. You become anchored, steady, immune to the chaos of voices that surround you. That is how judgment loses its grip. Indifference to judgment is not arrogance, nor is it ignorance. It is clarity. It is the recognition that no one truly knows your path except you. Strangers do not carry your burdens. Critics do not live your battles, and even those closest to you cannot fully understand your inner war. So why should their words govern your destiny? When you stop giving weight to their opinions, you redirect all that wasted energy back into yourself. The hours you once spent worrying about who disapproves of you, you now spend building, creating, strengthening. Indifference does not make you careless, it makes you focused. You no longer chase validation, you chase progress. You no longer beg for acceptance, you command respect through action. The man who does not live for the crowd becomes the man the crowd cannot ignore, because nothing draws attention like one who walks unbent, unafraid, and unapologetically in his own direction. Understand this. People judge because it gives them comfort. They point fingers to distract themselves from their own flaws. They mock to hide their own insecurities, and they criticize to avoid facing their own failures. If you knew the weakness hiding behind their judgment, you would laugh at it instead of fearing it. To take their words seriously is to grant them power they never earned. Indifference is the shield that protects you from this corruption. When you hear their ridicule and feel nothing, you have already won. They cannot pierce you, they cannot sway you, they cannot bend you, because you have trained yourself to stand above their reach. The world despises what it cannot control, and when you no longer bow to judgment, you become untouchable. That untouchability is what makes leaders rise. Warriors endure, and legends endure, centuries after the crowd has vanished into dust. The power of indifference to judgment is the power of self-mastery. When you learn to measure yourself only by your own standards, the chains of the world fall from your neck. No applause makes you arrogant, no insult makes you small. You walk with the calm strength of one who no longer depends on the shifting winds of opinion. This is not coldness. It is freedom. It is the freedom to act boldly, to speak truthfully, to live unapologetically without fear of being cast out by those who never carried your burdens in the first place. The crowd will always shout, the critics will always sneer, and the cowards will always point. But you will stand above them, unmoved. In that moment, judgment becomes powerless, and you become something far more dangerous than love or hated. You become free. To live unapologetically is to finally reclaim the life that shame, judgment, and fear have stolen from you. Most people shrink themselves to fit into the narrow cages society builds around them. They silence their voices, dull their fire, and wear masks so the world accepts them. But every mask suffocates the soul. Every compromise chips away at who they really are, until they become hollow shells living not their own lives, but the lives others designed for them. Living unapologetically means tearing off those masks and standing in the raw truth of your existence, no matter how uncomfortable it makes others. It is to declare with your actions, "This is who I am, and I will not bow to your expectations." This kind of existence is rare because it requires courage to endure the disapproval of the world. Yet it is also the only path to true power. A man who lives unapologetically is feared, not because he harms others, but because he cannot be bent by the weight of conformity. When you live unapologetically, you are not asking for permission. You are seizing authority over your own being. Most people wait for the approval of others before they dare to act, speak, or dream. But approval is a leash, and those who wait for it will always remain tied to the hands of their masters. Living unapologetically means cutting that leash and walking freely, guided only by your own conviction. It does not mean recklessness or selfishness. It means alignment with your true nature. You are not here to live a copy of someone else's life. You are here to carve your own path through the chaos of existence. When you act from this truth, you no longer apologize for your desires, your strength, your hunger, or your vision. You embody them fully, and in doing so, you become an example to others who secretly long for the same freedom, but lack the courage to claim it. Of course, the unapologetic self will always face resistance. The crowd will try to shame you, to label you arrogant, selfish, or dangerous. They do this not because you are wrong, but because your freedom exposes their chains. Every unapologetic act is a mirror held to the faces of those who betrayed their own souls to fit in. And when people are confronted with that truth, they either rise with you, or they try to destroy you. This is why so many hide. They cannot bear the weight of resistance. But resistance is the very fire that tempers greatness. To live unapologetically is to accept the storms, to stand firm in the hurricane of criticism, and to declare, "I will not betray myself just to comfort you." And in that defiance you become unshakable. The world cannot bribe you with its approval, nor silence you with its scorn. You belong to yourself, and nothing is stronger than that. Living unapologetically also means embracing every part of yourself, the light and the shadow, the triumph and the wound. The world teaches you to hide your flaws, but the unapologetic man wears them openly, not as weakness, but as proof of survival. To deny your darkness is to hand it power over you. To own it is to transform it into strength. Living unapologetically means never begging forgiveness for being complex, imperfect, and human. You do not need to explain your fire, your scars, your hunger, or your ambition to those who would rather you remain small. Every apology you make for simply existing in your truth is a weapon you hand to your enemies. So stop apologizing, stop explaining, stop shrinking. Let them choke on their discomfort while you continue to expand into the fullest version of yourself. True respect does not come from obedience. It comes from authenticity, and authenticity can never be achieved by bowing. In the end, to live unapologetically is to live without chains. It is to stand in a world obsessed with control and refuse to be tamed. It is to embrace your voice, your fire, your flaws, your hunger, and to move forward with a heart that answers only to itself. Such a life will not always be comfortable, and it will not always be safe, but it will always be yours. And what could be more dangerous than a man who belongs only to himself? He does not kneel to shame, he does not bend to judgment, and he does not silence his truth to please the fragile comfort of others. He stands tall, unshaken, unapologetic, and in that stance, he commands a power that cannot be taken away. To live unapologetically is the ultimate victory. It is freedom, it is strength, and it is the purest form of existence a human being can ever claim. Life will always try to bury you under the weight of shame, the judgment of others, and the pressure to apologize for who you are. These forces are not meant to destroy you, but to test you, to see if you are strong enough to rise beyond them. Shame was never your enemy. It was your teacher, showing you where you were broken so you could become whole. Judgment was never the truth. It was only noise designed to distract you from your path. An apology for your very existence was never required. It was a lie created to keep you obedient, small, and silent. The moment you understand this, you begin to see that every scar, every insult, every attempt to silence you can become fuel for your strength. You do not need the approval of the world to live a powerful life. You need only the courage to face your shame, the clarity to ignore their judgment, and the fire to live unapologetically in your truth. When you embrace these, you cannot be broken. You become untouchable, not because the world stops attacking, but because its weapons no longer pierce you. Shame becomes strength, judgment becomes irrelevant, and authenticity becomes your armor. This is the path to true freedom, the freedom of a soul that bows to no chain, no ridicule, and no expectation but its own. If you dare to walk this path, you will not just survive, you will dominate. You will not just exist, you will live with fire in your eyes and power in your hands. So rise, stand tall, and never again allow the world to control you through fear. Thank you, and may strength guide you, courage protect you, and may God bless you always.